Hello friends, my name is Keilan Morrissey, and you are watching Keeping It Keilan. Today I would like to discuss with you a show that you may or may not have heard of called No Ordinary Family. It is a superhero drama that focuses on a family of four, a mother, a father, a sister, and a brother, and they're called the Powells, and they each receive unique superpowers after a plane crash. And you might be thinking that this sounds kind of like The Incredibles, kind of like a lot of other superhero stories that exist, but this show is very cool, very unique, and I love it. It aired when I was much younger. I was very young when I saw it for the first time, but I got it on DVD and I've rewatched it several times since then, and it is a good show. And I would like to share with you why I think this show is deserving of a second season and why you should go ahead and watch the first season if you haven't already. First of all, No Ordinary Family has a great cast. All of the people are great. I love Romany Malco. I love Micheal Chiklis. There's some great stars in this, and the cast and their characters have such a unique chemistry. And that's something that's super important in a show, especially a show about a family, is the chemistry between them. It has to feel believable. It has to feel real. Their personalities have to contrast and clash off each other in ways that would work in a normal family. And that's why some of the comedies that I watch, like Schitt's Creek and The Middle and Modern Family, those shows work so well because of the family dynamic. And this show has an amazing family dynamic. I mean, you absolutely believe all of their interactions. I mean, aside from all the superhero stuff, it's totally believable that this is a real family and that they speak to each other in this way and they spend time together in this way and they have these issues. Before getting superpowers, they have their issues, and after getting superpowers, those issues become heightened, and it's just very believable, the chemistry between these characters. There's also very cool character arcs. A lot of times with a show that's a little bit more on the lighthearted side, they kind of keep the characters at a certain level, but certain characters, especially the character Joshua, played by one of my favorite actors, Josh Stewart, has a very, very interesting character arc throughout the series. And to me, that's super important. I like characters that change and fluctuate and have mixed motives. That's really important to me, especially in superhero content. Additionally, despite the fact that this show was made some years back, it did not look cheesy at all, even though it had a TV budget. A lot of times, superhero shows fall short whenever their budget restricts them from being able to do what they want to do. They try to aim high and then they fall short because they don't have that movie budget that can accomplish any sort of superhero craziness that they imagine. But this show understood the limitations of its budget, and it worked with them very well and pulled off some really cool effects that I think would be just as impressive if it was released in modern day. The show, I mean, it just had a good flow to it. The events of the season built off of each other really well. The exploration of different characters besides the family who have superpowers. Every character had their own story. Every character had their own motives, and the way that everything tied together, especially in like the final 5 or 6 episodes of the season, it all worked so well, and I found it to be just an impressive story altogether. Something that I really love in superhero content is when the source of the powers is a main aspect of the story. Like, how did these powers come into existence? How does anyone have these powers? Why do certain people have certain powers, you know? What is the deal with that? It's not just like, oh, these guys have powers, now let's show all their adventures. It's actually trying to discover the meaning, the purpose, and the effect of the powers. What if the powers have a negative toll on your body? I mean, these are human beings who all of a sudden are performing at a higher capacity than any other human in the world. So it explores that in a really interesting lens, especially because the main mother, Stephanie, she actually is a scientist, a biologist, so she has the capabilities to explore why these powers are what they are. The show has such compelling twists as well. That's very important to me, is that it doesn't just follow a formulaic plot. It really does twist and turn in really cool ways. And speaking of twists, the show ended on quite a cliffhanger, and it seems to me, my friends have pointed out to me, that I have a bad habit of loving TV shows that end prematurely on cliffhangers and get canceled. Yeah, by the way, this show only has had 1 season, just 1. It was a great season, but still, just 1. And it did end on a cliffhanger that introduced so many new elements, and if you've watched the whole series, you really understand in that finale, like, whoa, things are different now. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything because I understand that a lot of people probably haven't seen this show, and hopefully will go watch this show now, but seeing the ending, it's crazy. It is the completion to certain characters' arcs and the beginning of certain characters' arcs, and that's rarely done and is executed very well in this show. Now, here's the thing about this show. It did come out before the superhero boom, before this surge of people obsessed with superhero culture. This show was released way before that, and that's what I think its downfall was. I think if the show was released nowadays, it would have had a much bigger following because superheroes are such a bigger thing now, and a lot of people are thirsty for superhero content that isn't Marvel or DC, that isn't part of these two main universes, that actually is its own standalone thing. People really like that nowadays, and they gravitate towards shows like The Boys on Amazon, or even Watchmen, even though that technically is DC, but it's sort of its own thing. Also, I Am Not Okay With This on Netflix is another great example of a show that includes superpowers but is done in a non-traditional fashion. So I think that this show, it did everything right. The show was great, but if it was released during the superhero boom, if it was released in modern day or even like 5 or 6 years ago, it would have had more success. So an idea I have that I wonder if other shows have done this is to re-release the season on Netflix or on a streaming service and market it as if it's a new show. Don't market it like, oh yeah, we're throwing this on Netflix. Market it like, look at this awesome thing. Boom, here you go. Do you like it? And then if it gains viewership, then it could receive perhaps a second season on Netflix or on that streaming service. To my knowledge, it's already on Hulu, and I don't know how it's performing on Hulu, but if it were to be brought onto Netflix and advertised heavily, it could gain a whole new fan following that didn't even know this show existed in the first place. So I do hope that this show at some point sees a resurgence. I sadly don't think it had the fan following to be just resurrected like a normal show. I wish it could, because there's a lot of shows that I love that I dearly wish could be revived. But what can you do? So if you haven't watched No Ordinary Family, go watch it, check it out, at least watch a trailer, see what you think of the idea. The general premise of the show has been done before, but the execution is what makes it unique. If you've watched this show, let me know your thoughts on it. I'd like to find other No Ordinary Family fans out there. And please let me know what you would like to see in a second season or how you would like to see this show return to the spotlight. Thank you all so much for watching Keeping It Keilan. Check back every week for more episodes, and please subscribe so you can be notified whenever there are new episodes. Peace out, everybody. This has been Keilan Morrissey.